I'm in San Francisco working for a few weeks. Gotta check out the local poker scene. Round 1, Bay 101. I played in the smaller game of 1, 2, 3 for about 20 minutes before the game broke, not playing any noteworthy hands. I didn't want to wait and went right for the open seat at the 2-3-5, in for 500, where the game looks promising. Let's take advantage, and here we go. I raise an early position limper with ace-jack suited in the cutoff to 25. The short stack small blind calls plus the limper. Great flop. I bet 50 and get called just by the small blind. Makes my decision on the turn super easy with his 2/3 size pot bet remaining. I'm going all in. After I do on a king, villain folds and I take this one down. Stack is already moving in the right direction. Next hand, I open from middle position with 9-7 suited, getting called by the button and the small blind, who has been calling quite a lot. I flop middle pair, and I decide on a 2/3 size pot bet. I can get value from draws or fold out hands that have equity. Then I could also represent better hands on later streets. The villain in the small blind comes along. I don't like the turn, bringing in the flush and Jack-10. I decided to check it back. Ace of hearts on the river, and it gets checked to me again. I can't beat much besides 7-8, and I think I can get King X to fold, which would be a pretty big chunk of this loose villain's range. I turn my hand into a bluff, represent the ace that could have also easily given me 2 pair that was pot controlling on the turn. Villain immediately folds, so maybe he didn't have a king, and I could have won at showdown anyway, but I like to play regardless. Stack is continuing to move in the right direction. Here I get ace-queen offsuit in the small blind with an under-the-gun limp, a raise from a limping type player, as well as the button. To squeeze or not to squeeze? Players that call a lot and not raise preflop should have their preflop raises gather attention. I don't really want to raise here and fold to an all-in shove, but I also don't really want to call and play this hand likely 4 ways, where it'd be hard to get value playing totally out of position. I decided on just calling, but with the added caller and the somewhat small ISO raise of 20 that doesn't scream like a premium hand, perhaps a little squeeze would have been a little better. The flop sure makes life easy though, with top 2. The first limper leads into the preflop raiser tiny for just 25, and the raiser calls. Folds to me, and I ain't having none of that bet sizing, and raise it up. Sadly, getting both players to fold. In position that could have been slow played, since I can guarantee a bet on the turn, but I don't think so out of position. Another pot heading in the right direction. Things are going great so far, early on in this fight. The straddle is on with 1 limper, and I bump it up to 50 with ace-jack, with both the limper and the short straddler calling. Flop is good once again. No main draws out there, so I bet small 1/2 pot of 80, and get the new player to call that seems pretty straightforward tight. I feel this is a 2-street value type of hand against competent opponents, and 3 streets would be very ambitious, unless it's against a calling station that just can't fold his top pair. I feel limping preflop and calling this type of super dry board just screams like a suited weak ace. I went for value now, 1/2 pot again, and had a dream of 3 streets all in by the river, not for sure knowing this player type. But I feel that was not the best play, and a bit too optimistic, as evidenced here, villain folds. A check back and a call on the river to a bet thinking I have a lower pocket pair, or just a bet myself when checked to, that seemed like a better line to me. Up to around 850, as I remain totally unscathed in this middleweight matchup. I'm on the button with ace deuce of spades and CLM from a drinking player that has a 2-box shirt on, as well as the 2 players that like to call a lot. Good spot to get in there, not even a chance of folding. The $2 blind already in there just makes it even easier. It's a hand that plays well multi-way because it easily makes the nuts, which I'm drawing to on a low coordinated board with 2 spades. I also have a dummy end to a gut shot that could possibly make me a straight flush, but not really looking to hit a 3 with just a 6 beating me. Call and move a lot, bets 15, and this is a clear call to me. With position against a player that doesn't seem to like folding, I also don't want players to fold weaker draws to a raise. We go heads up to a king of clubs on the turn, and I see another small bet of 25. Can't fold and don't see enough fold equity to justify raising. Looking to hit my hand on the river, but I'm disappointed with a horrible looking 8 of diamonds. I don't beat anything now and lay it down. I receive the first blow to my stack in the fight here in the 5th round. The 6th round didn't go my way either, as this battle is flipping around. I raise from the button and get shoved on by the short stack big blind. Snap call playing game theory optimal. It's just most of the time, players don't shove nearly enough in cash games when they play short stacked at all. If they do only shove 7s plus ace jack plus, this is actually a fold. That range is way too tight to shove a button open from the big blind, but it could easily be the villain's exploitable shoving range. I have no read on this player type, so I call and run into ace king and don't improve. We got ourselves a tight match on our hands. I pick up my best hand of the night so far, pocket jacks in the small blind. What I deem a typical player opens large for 35, and the action is on me. He has been limping or calling most hands, and when a player like that raises, and raises pretty large, it really looks like a premium holding. I don't think I'll get action from much worse at all, so I just call 3 ways to the flop. The overpair comes. I check, thinking I might have a tough decision on a bet from the preflop raiser. The big blind leads out for 70 though, and with his chip stack, I already have a plan when the action gets to me. Raise all in if typical folds, or fold myself and get away if typical calls, pinpointing him squarely on queens, kings, or aces. The latter occurs, and on the turn, the big blind puts the rest of it in with pocket 8s, and typical takes it down with queens. I lost the absolute minimum in that hand. That now puts me at $497, and we're about in a dead heat. I'm in early position with under the gun straddle on with ace 8 suited and open to 40, getting drinking Tupac to call as well as the straddler. I flop another top pair and bet about 2/3 pot of 80 and get the straddler to come along. Turn is a queen of diamonds, and I get an overbet shove from villain. I don't like it. I felt that the queen hit him with either ace queen or a newly found combo draw. If I give villain that exclusive range, I just barely don't have the equity to call. He could also be overplaying a hand like ace jack or something that I'm behind, or a weirdly played set. At the table I just folded, villain showed king queen of hearts. So unfortunate in this situation, as I folded out the best hand. Maybe I could have read that bet sizing as wanting a fold with a semi-bluff, but after analyzing it here, it seems a fold was fine. I could also have plenty of better hands as well. This hand makes me down, but I'm not out, and I also add on 160 to top off, ready to get back on the felt. Perfect hand to get back on the winning track, pocket kings. I raise 2 limpers to 35, get a cold call from drinking Tupac, and the big blind. The pot is looking like it'll be a bloated 5-way pot, where I can get all the chips in on 2 streets on most boards. But then Barber, who gave out his business card to all the players at the table, ships it in for 264, and I'm loving it. Easy reshove for me. The flop comes, and I take a big punch to the gut with an ace-high board, losing to ace-queen. Things are just not going my way after that quick start. I'm in for 200 more, and I still like the table dynamic, ready to get back in there. It's the last and final round 10, and it's a good one. I open ace-7 of hearts in the hijack, then get the rest of the table to call. Going 5 ways to a hard-hitting flop, I bet 80 with my top pair and nut flush draw, and get the 2 players with position on me to call. Most of the time, I believe at least one of the callers has me outkicked, and I'm going to need to improve, which I don't on the turn. It's a bad card in a jack. Ace-Jack, I believe, is a big chunk of both villains' ranges, and I won't be able to bluff them off that hand to a bet here. Plus, Ace-Queen and Ace-10 now have gut shots and might not fold either. I check. The first villain bets small for just 100, and the next villain calls the 100. Getting better than 5 to 1, I can't fold. I'm just contemplating a possible raise if the first villain would fold Ace-Jack. To me, that's the key hand that is a huge part of the first villain's range. Also the top besides Queen 10 of Hearts specifically. Ace-Jack, of course, being much more likely. I think the second villain's range is even more capped, since he would raise presumably with that hand. He most likely has a single pair of aces or some type of draw. I myself can credibly represent pocket aces, kings, or ace-king. I don't pull the trigger though. Villain would be getting 4 to 1 and might just make a crying call with ace-jack. Some players at this limit don't think nearly that much in depth though. Just always think I have ace-king or better and would fold. As played, I whiff the river and fold to the same bet of just 100 and also a call. The first villain shows ace-king and the second ace-queen. I for sure wasn't getting that first villain to fold with ace-king, so I saved some money there. Passive play the whole way for him, just call pre, just call flop, tiny bets turn and river. Weirdly played in my opinion, but it worked out for him. I know when it's time to quit. I cashed out my last $195 for a big dent in the bankroll of $665. I'm tapping out after getting knocked around pretty good.